Happy, terrific Tuesday, and welcome to another edition of Sales Talk. Today, we're going to continue our conversation regarding whether or not sales is right for you. And sales is an incredible industry, and it's absolutely been the best thing that's ever happened to me and my family for a lot of different reasons. But defining or deciding whether or not sales is right for you is really more about a soul searching opportunity for you to figure out whether or not you can commit to a lifelong of sales if that's your choice, or even to experiment and find out whether or not sales is right for you. Maybe it's a conduit to another career path. But having the foundational education that sales offers is really incredible. It allows the introvert to become extrovert. It allows for open communication for all unique situations. There's no two sales that are alike. That's the one blessing that sales can absolutely offer, is that you're never going to meet the same sales situation absolutely exact in any transaction that you have, and no matter what industry that you work in. So I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in a lot of different industries and all in sales. So I have over 25 years of sales experience. That also includes my business experience, where I've had the opportunity from sales to grow into opening my own business. And I've had several. So we'll touch on that in another segment. But defining whether or not sales is right for you, that's really, again, an independent choice. So it depends on where you're at in your life and what's going on, and if, say, for example, that you don't know what you want to do for the rest of your life, and if you're in your youth, and I certainly applaud you for having the youth on your side. So when I was in my early 20s and I was considering a career choice, and I moved from the retail space into sales, I decided that I heard about all the income potential that sales offered, and I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to engage in that, and I wanted to see what that was about, and I wanted to learn more about that. So for me, I took a personal inventory, and I welcome anybody who is considering any career choice, whether it's sales or otherwise, is to take a personal inventory of yourself, figure out what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and understand that every opportunity for a weakness is an opportunity for growth. We can always improve on every aspect of our lives, interpersonally, our spiritual well-being, our social engagements, and that kind of thing. So take a personal inventory of what your strengths are. I've always been blessed with having a positive mental attitude, and I've always looked for the good in most things. I've been challenged. I've had my ups and downs just like anybody else has, and what I've learned from all of those experiences, and the takeaway is the lesson that was learned in everything. So if we can become a product of growth and learning, and commit to learning and growth every single day, you're far further ahead than most people, especially when you consider sales as a career choice. So engaging with people and personalities and interacting with people, you have to be approachable. You have to, be somebody that is willing to approach others. So, and it also depends on the sales environment that you're working in. So, for example, when I was working selling office equipment at Icon Office Solutions, it was business and business, business to business. And what that meant is that we approached businesses, and we would engage with gatekeepers, and the gatekeepers' responsibility is to keep people like me, away from the decision makers. That was their job. They were the filter. So introducing myself and building rapport with these people, and anybody that I thought that would have been a quality prospect, somebody that gave me hints or suggestions that they were interested in replacing their office equipment, then it was a cue or a trigger to me that I needed to follow up with that person. So having a follow-up mechanism in place was extremely important. So to keep this part of the story short, gatekeeper, decision maker, building rapport with the gatekeeper, setting the appointment with the decision maker. That was the end goal. Then going back to the office, and then sitting in my cubicle and organizing my high priority business cards or prospective clients that I had introduced myself to that day, or earlier in the week. And then the ones that had zero interest, maybe they would go into sort of a trickle follow-up mechanism that was in place. So defining who's an immediate prospect and who's one that's going to be a future potential client, distinguishing those was the function while you're at the office. So this environment gave me the both sides of the equation. It was going after the business and being extrovert in terms of knocking on doors, talking to people, finding the quality leads, and then going into the office, which was more of an introvert environment, meaning that it was organizing, it was follow up with calls and setting appointments from the office. So it really gave me a larger range of sales in terms of the differences between meeting somebody face to face, belly to belly, having the conversation with them, taking it back to the office and being internal, and then working all of that. So at the end of the day, figuring out your strengths and your weaknesses, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, or if you could be a hybrid of both of those, like this particular career choice was. So, and then fast forward, moving on to my next sales career or choice was a company called Pilgrim Motorsports. And when I walked into Pilgrim Motorsports, and I can tell you that I did my business to business door knocking to send out my resumes in order to be able to find, my next sales job, my next sales career, and opportunity. Let's say sales opportunity, because we don't want to use job. That's the acronym for job is just over broke. So when you're considering, a career path and a choice, then ideally you want to make sure that it fits for your internal registry or dialogue, and then it also encourages you to work on your weaknesses, your strengths and your weaknesses, figuring out that personal inventory, and then moving forward into the next career choice. So when I was moving towards my next opportunity, and I walked into Pilgrim Motorsports in Plymouth, Michigan, I knocked on the door and I was met at the door. And I dressed in a suit and tie, and I had my leather bound binder with me, and I was all prepared for this interview that I had with a gentleman by the name of Steve Crane. And when I walked in, all eyes were on me, right? And they were like, well, "Who is this guy in the suit?" And that kind of thing. So because this was an environment where literally, cut off shorts and blue jeans, and they had usually their polo style shirt, and whether it was sandals in the summer and closed toed shoes, outside of that, that was the environment, the dress code. So watching this guy myself walk in, and I've got a suit and tie on, and I'm asking for the hiring manager. So now they're wondering, all the things that were going through their head, which I learned afterwards because they became my friends. Of course, I worked there for quite a long time. And then, figuring out what the internal dialogue was. Who is this guy? What's he about? Is he going to buy the place? Is he a new owner? He's too young for that, that kind of thing. But then when I met with Steve after the interview, and Steve immediately wanted to hire me, which was very encourageable. I mean, I really appreciated that, and that made me feel good about myself, right? But Steve asked me, he said, it seems like you're overqualified with your college background and education and the way you present yourself, that kind of thing. Seems like you're overqualified for this position. Why do you want to work in sales? And I really loved when I walked into the place and I felt the energy in the room. I mean, I was looking at brand new motorcycles. There was 50 motorcycles over here. There was, 50 ATVs over here. There was a wall full of jet skis, and it was just exciting. It was wonderful. It was a great experience. So then I knew that I had that connection. I knew that, I loved motorcycles. I was driving motorcycles when I was, a little kid, and I learned on a YZ80, and I had that in me, and it's something that really complemented my spirit and my being, and I wanted to be there, and it energized me, and I could take that enthusiasm, and I could easily relay that and transfer that onto my prospects, the people that were interested in buying motorcycles and ATVs and jet skis. And it didn't take very long for me to find my niche in this industry, and find that it was welcoming, and it felt good, and I was providing a service, and being as professional as I can. And every single day I was listening to motivational and sales techniques by all the top guys and girls, in that space, in the space of teaching. So it was a matter of exploration for me in order to attract that information, receive it, and then apply it in my everyday. And I committed to, when I first started in sales, I committed to a lifelong of learning, even back to the photocopier and office equipment days. That was one of the first things that I really gravitated towards, was all this information. I turned my vehicle, my car, into a university on wheels, and that was one of the most beneficial things, commitments that I could have made to myself. It was a gift to me, in order to be able to change my language, change my spirit, change how I thought about people and personalities, and welcoming them, and really embracing them, and truly loving them, figuratively, not uh, or excuse me, metaphorically, not physically. I really found that by sharing that appreciation for them to come to me. And again, that goes back to the differences in the type of sales, right? Where office equipment was a hybrid of external business to business and internal uh, office situation, where you're organizing, and then you're planning, and then you're following up. Where this was a space on the showroom floor, I had my desk, and prospects came to me. The business paid a lot of money for advertising and getting their name out there, and gravitating towards prospects to come to us for the phone to ring. And it was as fast as you could answer the phone. It was that there were 6 sales guys on the floor at the time, and it was exciting. It was enthusiastic, and to be able to transfer that enthusiasm to your prospect was so rewarding, and it felt good. Every sale was a feel good sales, but every sales has a process, and we'll talk about that in another video. But this, from the sales process, what it means to meet and greet the person at the door, and how you do that, how you present yourself right when somebody walks into the door, and really where you want to position your desk in the showroom. I wanted my desk as close to the door as I possibly could, so no matter what I was doing, I could always turn my head and greet that person, welcome them into Pilgrim Motorsports. My name's Dan. I'll be with you in just a few minutes. Or how can I help you? Are you here for sales, parts, or service? And then direct them to the right area that they were looking for. If I'm on the phone, then I would definitely acknowledge them and say, I'll be right with you. Or maybe I would call another salesperson over in order to help them if I was going to be on a lengthy call. But I would never, ever dismiss anybody that walked into the door. So, and that was really important for me to be there, and I found that to be the most beneficial space, the most valuable space to be in a sales environment. And then the next thing that I did was I found mentors in the business that were great at selling motorcycles, and I would read everything I could about how they were doing it. And I would relate their experiences to mine, and I would seek out other mentors that could help propel me in the right direction. And Patrick Tortora, he was one of those mentors. He was one of the owners at Pilgrim Motorsports, and Steve Prane, I'd mentioned him. He was the one that I had interviewed with, and he had social interactions with all the sales guys, and he was the behind the scenes tech guy. He was always finding new technology in order to be able to find prospects to come to us. And we can go into that as far as marketing and advertising in a different video. But so then Patrick Tortora, he was always on the floor. He had his desk right on the floor, and he was engaged. And he was the guy that you could approach and have a conversation with. And then, also Steve was another one that you would approach deals to, but you would also come to realize that, Steve had his own personality, and you could bring certain deals to him. Patrick had his own personality, and you could bring certain deals to him. So when you're in that kind of environment, it's kind of like when you ask mom and she says no, go ask dad. Maybe he'll say yes. So that was kind of like that. But you'll know that in every single sales environment, it's different, no matter what you're selling and where you're selling. So in a showroom sales environment where you're open 6 days a week, and we were closed on Sundays at the time, and we worked from 9 o'clock in the morning until 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. We did If there was a deal that was still coming in or to be had on the floor, we didn't leave. That was that environment, and you didn't really want to. It was exciting. You were amongst your peer group. By the time after a year or two into it, everybody befriended everybody, and it was a very cohesive environment. So, and it was fun. It was a lot of laughs. There was a lot of joking around in the sales floor, and we would relate our stories amongst each other, and try to help each other grow. in all areas, so is sales right for you? It really is a matter of, how willingness you are to learn and grow and commit to that every single day. And when it comes time to make the decision whether or not that it's right for you, all I can offer you is take that leap of faith. Have faith in your abilities, have faith in you, have faith in the ability to be able to interact with others and grow every single day and learn the lessons. Because oftentimes we are met with conflict within ourselves, and no matter whatever those external influences are that we have that are affecting our choices and our mental well-being. It could be a divorce. It could be, a challenge with your children. It could be that you have, elderly parents who are sickly. It could be all of these things. It could be a relationship issue that you're having with your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, or husband. It could be, there's family dynamics that are involved, or whatever the case may be. We all go through these stages in our lives where we have challenges, and how we respond to those challenges is extremely important. So, one thing that I've learned over the years is that, we are all in control of our emotions. We have the ability to be able to take control of our emotions and then also be able to respond to how those emotions are influencing our choices, our everyday decisions, whether we're distracted or we need that mental break and we decide that we want to drink in order to solve that problem, or we want to, use drugs to solve that problem, whether they're, illicit or over the counter. So all of these distractions that come into play really affect our emotional state. But recognizing where we are at any given time is so important, and it takes it takes a lot of strength and internal growth and inventory. Taking an inventory as often as we think about it is so detrimental to our future choices and where we want to go and who we want to be. So, is sales right for you? Sales is right for anybody who is willing to step outside of your comfort zone and become an extrovert. It takes that smile, that greeting to encourage somebody to approach us, right? Because nobody wants to buy from anybody who is down in the dumps and is under the weather, for lack of a better term, or it just doesn't have that positive energy that they exude. And I'd like to think that I have that, and I've been told that I have that. Uh, so based on that endorsement, I feel confident in my everyday, activities and language and communications with people. So going back to the original analogy, when we walk into the door and we are influenced by all of these negative thoughts and emotions that are going through our mind, we have to be able to compartmentalize that, meaning that when it's time to show up for work, we can consider ourselves as an actor or an actress, right? Open that metaphorical chest box, take all of your shit and all of your negative energy and tuck it in there, no matter how full it is, tuck it in there. If you're closing the lid and there's spaces around, tuck it all up in there all the way around, because that little metaphorical chest, that box of negative influence, is going to be put outside of the door. Then you walk into the door, and now you have this new start of your day. It's going to be positive, and you're going to be a positive influence on others. Keeping that box, that negative, the metaphorical chest outside of the door. I can tell you with absolute certainty that one thing is for sure, is that when you walk out of that door, that little box is going to be waiting for you. So you can open it up and then manage that box as you see fit, outside of bringing it into the office, right? Because if you do, it's not going to help anyone. It's not going to help yourself. It's not going to help the dealership, and it's not going to help your prospects. So it's important to recognize when that exists, and then if it does, what you really need to recognize is that it exists first and foremost. And then if it's affecting your mood in your day and it's going to compromise any sales situation, your boss is going to appreciate that you approach them and say, I'm just not mentally with it today. I have to handle this issue with my girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, and I should only need a few hours, and then I'll be back after that. There's not a boss or a manager on the planet that's going to say you can't leave, unless they just don't have unless they don't respect you or your willingness to recognize, and in that case you don't need to be there anyway. There's another employer out there that can certainly be more forgiving in that regard. If it's going to take you days, then maybe you need to cash in on some on some vacation days, paid for, unpaid for, whatever the case may be. But you need to satisfy that and bring it to conclusion before you can come back into the door. It's just it happens, and when it shows up, recognize it, work through the process as effectively as you can, and then get back to work. You know, so those are a few of the concepts that will show up in your career. And I touched on mentorship. You know, early on in my career, I found mentors that were and I found them through books and tapes and in my motivational training, and I took courses on sales. I attended seminars. I was in networking meetings and that kind of PTN, power through networking. Yes, a positive network. Those were all communities of people that were like-minded, and surrounding yourself with those like-minded individuals, engaging with them, having conversations with them will by far help you grow the fastest. Because when we learn from somebody who's better than us, even slightly better than us, then we can take that and we can apply it to our everyday sales life, and we can better ourselves. There is something to be said about committing to 1% improvement a day, compounded over yearly. Now you're 365% better than you were when you started 365 days ago. So there's value in that, and we have to program our minds and program our decision making to allow us to be able to be set up for the next time that experience that we may or may not have handled as well as we could have or should have, when it shows up again, it's going to be automatic. We're going to have that automatic response to be able to satisfy the customer when we didn't know the answer before. And now we do. And now we've programmed it. And now we can move on and get that one more deal. There's power in one more. We're using one a lot, 1% better every single day. The power in one more over the curve. These are all concepts that I've learned to live by. And I encourage you to come up with the same for yourself, so that when it comes time to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses, and whether you're approachable, inapproachable, whether you've got conflict, internal dialogue that's going on, all of these things will help strengthen your ability to be able to move past all of those. We're going to call them mental gatekeepers. We use that early on in office equipment. Those are mental gatekeepers that we need to get past and get through, so that we can be prepared for the next opportunity when it shows up. Um, so is sales right for you? What kind of personality do you have? Do you have the personality that's already fit for sales? Again, take your inventory, figure that out. See if you need to work on your dialogue. Maybe it's your language. Oftentimes we find that we don't have to have an elevated language. We don't need to be the smartest guy in the room, smartest girl in the room, but it helps to have language that supports our commitment to the product that we're trying to sell. So if we're using language that complements the product that we're trying to sell, whether you're selling cars or motorcycles or office equipment, using language in that industry and support information, so that your prospect feels confidence about your language, your knowledge, and you're offering the absolute best solution for them. And that's what they're looking for. They're coming to you to find out information. It may be that they're in the early stages of their fact finding. So you'll recognize that very early on, and you'll give them all the necessary information, and then you'll ask them for a timeline in terms of follow up. When should I follow up with you? I've given you a lot of information today. What kind of time frame are you looking at in order to make a purchase? So all of those things become very, very important. That's called a trial close. Again, that's part of the sales process, and we'll get into that a little later also. So who is sales right for? If you have a desire for success, then sales is right for you, and the desire comes from within. You have to find that desire. If you don't desire to improve the quality of your life, if you don't desire to grow, if you don't desire to have better relationships, if you don't desire to improve, different areas of your internal being, meaning your spirituality, your foundation, your moral code, if you don't have that desire, then unfortunately there's not much help other than the suggestion would be to recognize that, take them piece by piece and improve on those. Once you improve on those areas of your life, then you can grow, and you can step outside your comfort zone, and you can respond accordingly in a positive way. So it's very important to distinguish that. um, is sales right for you? First you have to define what who you are, and we talked a lot about your inventory and taking a personal inventory, figuring out your strengths and your weaknesses. But you also have a degree of success in mind. So what does it mean to you to be successful? So we can't know what success is for us individually, because it is an individual choice in terms of what it means to be successful. So is it $1 million in the bank? Is it $10 million in the bank? Is it any money at all in the bank? Is it about your possessions? Is it a nice big house? Is it a boat, a pontoon boat, a speed boat? Is it about a jet ski, a snowmobile, a dirt bike? Do you want to have a barn full of these things? Do you want to have a barn? Do you want to have a house? How much is the house worth? How much is your barn worth? What kind of property do you have? So success has to be defined first, and only you can define what successful is for you. So somebody, for one person, success might mean the ability to be happy and wake up every single day and be able to, express themselves, in a positive way, and be a positive influence for another person. That might be just all that they need to be successful. Another person might have more lofty goals in mind, whether they want to own a business someday, whether they want to move on and have a lot of things and possessions. Whatever motivates you. These would be your list of wants. You can always define your needs, which is, oftentimes, most of the time, in fact, shorter than your list of wants. But the more wants you have, the more loftier goals you have, and the higher expectations you'll have of yourself. And you're never ever set yourself up for failure, because failure is an opportunity to learn. Uh, and so when you can grow and learn from your failures, and you learn the lesson, there is no such thing as a failure. So defining what success means for you: daily success, weekly success, monthly success, yearly success, 10 years success. So you get the point. You can, and this is about goal setting. So you can set goals for the next day, for the next week, month, years to come. So defining what that means to you is so important in terms of being able to understand when you've reached success, or at least the level of success as you've defined it in that time period. And one of the other things that often shows up is when we're setting our goals and we're defining success, is define the perfect day. I actually just recently went through this exercise, and I had a challenge with that. And I thought to myself, wow, somebody who has all of your education and your learning and practice and everything that you've implemented over the years, as long as I can remember. I've been a student of growth from the time I was in school, and that's where that was instilled in me. But the point is defining your perfect day. I have a lot of perfect days then, and I can define what I felt, and I said, this is it. This is perfect. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever felt at the end of the day, wow, what a perfect day? What did that perfect day look like? Was work involved? I mean, I developed two different perfect days: my personal perfect day and my professional perfect day. So in my professional perfect day, the perfect day would be I generated 6 sales, and I made, $13,000 or $20,000, whatever the number was there. And I had no negative experiences or confrontations with any of my clients, and I was gelling well with all the salespeople that were on the floor. And I didn't have any, I call them whammies, show up. I didn't have any whammies show up, meaning whether it was a broken down motorcycle or, a car that needed to be towed in, or a service appointment that wasn't followed through with, or whatever the case may be. All of it was that was my perfect day. But for me, more emotionally, interpersonally, and spiritually, my perfect day revolves around nature and always has. I've been one with nature, where I find that connection with me. It really resonates well with me. And a couple of examples was, in just even last week, when I had a bonfire with my girlfriend, and we spent the day together. It was a Saturday, and we had the U of M football game was on, and University of Michigan was doing well, and so that was going on, and that felt good and wholesome. And I had a crock pot meal on the stove, or in the crock pot, ready for dinner, so I didn't have to think about what that looked like. And then my girlfriend and I, we shared that. And then after the football game and after the meal, then I suggested that we had a bonfire. So, and I haven't had a bonfire since last year, the year before, and I often do. But I just missed it for whatever reason, and it popped into my head that I wanted to do this. And I was out there for literally 5 hours, staring at the golden embers that were at the bottom of the fire, and the flames as they were trickling up, and watching that hypnotic, meditation just work through and really kind of connect. And I was listening to my Grateful Dead music, because I really love, listening to the bluesy Grateful Dead music. And so all of that was aligned for me, and it just felt so good. So defining your perfect day, you can't know that you had a perfect day unless you defined it. And you can do that absolutely every single day. One of the processes that you go through is you have to understand and recognize that you're in control of all of your emotions. Oftentimes we feel bombarded by all these influences, outside influences, trying to control our thoughts and our processes, whether it's on our handheld and our phone, whether we're scrolling through Facebook feeds, or if we're watching TV and it's just a mindless, meaningless show that we've gotten involved in. And or it could be, maybe you're watching the news, and we have the political aspects that are influencing our decisions, and all of those things, all of that criteria that is just fogging our minds, and it doesn't allow us the ability to be able to meditate, focus, and figure out what brings us to a degree of happiness, soulfulness, and relaxation. So, and it's only then that, and I've learned this, throughout my listenings, is, it's only through that process of taking the distractions out, where we can focus, and then we think outside the box, to outside of our comfort zone, and we find answers to questions that we've been longing for answers, when our mind is completely at rest, at peace. And that's where we find whether or not we are making a choice that's on our path or not. And that all relates to the conversation that we've been having, and that's about whether or not sales is right for you. So it's with an open heart that I invite you to explore opportunities to relax your mind, create a Zen experience for yourself, practice your perfect days, whether it's personal and professional. Recognize that you're in control of your emotions. Take a soulful inventory of yourself, both personally and professionally, and find out whether or not a career in sales is right for you. And it's right for absolutely everyone. There is not a single person on this planet that cannot take advantage of a career in sales. Every industry needs it. Every industry, has to have a sales force of some sort in order to be able to survive and thrive. So the industry that you choose can complement your spirituality and your moral code, and propel you forward. And you may find that the first career choice in sales was not right for you. You may continue to evolve and figure out, when you're taking advantage of this internal dialogue, bringing it to source, bringing it to a finite, to know that what you're selling, the product or service that you're selling, is right for you, morally and spiritually, so that you can sell that product or service with enthusiasm and bring comfort and closure to your prospect, and finding out how your product and service is going to enrich the quality of their lives, for them and their family, their relationships. And that's what it's all about. It's about being in that mindset of servitude, serving your client, serving your prospect. So with that, I'm going to end this video, and at the end of the day, or the bottom line, take an inventory, take control of your emotions, find the best sales choice for you. Have a great, terrific Tuesday. Bye for now. Positive way, So it's very important to distinguish that.